Hi, I'm grotesque, and today we're just going to be taking a look at a recent blog post from Creative Assembly regarding the Jabberslythe. So before we get into the blog post itself though, let's just take a look at the trailer for the Jabberslythe that was released last week.
The horrifically hideous Jabberslythe is sure to make even the most inspiring of leaders falter. An aura of madness surrounds the winged, toad-like creature, tugging at the sanity of all who witness it. Foes quake in the Jabberslythe's presence, as likely to receive a spray of poison as they are to be caught in their claws and dragged into their cavernous mouths whole.
So there you have the Jabberslythe in all its glory, and I think Creative Assembly have outdone themselves in regards to the model and its animations. It's truly a beautiful sight to behold in a grotesque sort of way. So let's get into the blog post that's recently been released and have a look at what Creative Assembly have to say about the Jabberslythe themselves. The worldwide rankings for things you don't want to meet in a dark alley are about to need a major update. The Jabberslythe is the sort of slavering, insane beast that only occurs when particularly nasty chaos powers get their hands dirty in the non-human corners of the world. Claws, wings, tongue, wild eyes, poisoned skin. The Jabberslythe has it all, and it's the latest Beastman unit introduced in the Silence and the Fury. The key to the Jabberslythe is that it's an absolute unstoppable beast at doing the thing it does well. Match it up against a carnosaur or dragon, and it's not going to have the greatest of times. Fire-breathing mountain creatures and ancient beasts are not its natural prey. However, against a line of infantry, no matter their armament, it will be a slaughter. The Jabberslythe's main tools, beside its host of naturally occurring spiky bits, are auras. Every moment spent in combat, it is spitting acid blood and vomiting wretched toxins over its foes. Every second looking upon it is an invitation to madness for all but the hardiest of minds. It is definitely, and without a doubt, not a friend. The aura of madness and spurting bile blood, as they're so lovingly called, are its dangerous capabilities. In game terms, this comes down to constant poison and damage in combat, and additional damage to anything close by that has low leadership. Even the most famed of monster killers are probably going to have problems if they operate as a pack rather than one extremely powerful unit. So from this preamble, we can see that the Jabberslythe is going to be an absolute killing machine, especially when pitted up against infantry lines. Not the best at taking on one-on-one a dragon or a woolly mammoth or carnosaur, so best to keep it at the back and then pick your battles wisely. Swoop in, perhaps once their enemy's front line is engaged with yours, and then take on their most important infantry units with this beast. Also from this preamble, we can see that apart from its huge size and undoubtedly large weapon strength, it's going to have several mechanics, such as the wretched toxins and the spurting bile blood. Let's take a look at the skills of the Jabberslythe in the Beastman Army book and see how they match up with what we've been given by Creative Assembly. So in the 7th edition of the Beastman Army book, the Jabberslythes come with a few special rules. So they can fly, are immune to psychology, are considered a large target, have poisoned attacks, and cause terror. But in addition to this, they have 3 unique abilities. They have the Aura of Madness. Each enemy within 12 inches of one or more Jabberslythes at the beginning of the Beastman magic phase must take a leadership test. For every point by which a unit fails its test, it suffers a wound with no armor saves allowed. So, in game we don't have phases, so it can't work quite that way. So what it seems to have been done is, we have this persistent aura around the Jabberslythe, which will lower the leadership of any enemies within range. The second special ability is Slithy Tongue. So the Jabberslythe can use its sticky, retractable tongue to drag prey into its maw. It has a shooting attack with the following profile: 12 inches and 5 strength. So once again, this can't be converted 1-to-1, but from what I've seen, the Jabberslythe has the ability to grab hold of a model within the unit you're fighting and swallow him whole. The animation looks absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to start chewing on my enemies. The final special ability which the Jabberslythe has is the Spurting Bile Blood. So for every wound caused on a Jabberslythe in close combat, the attacking unit immediately suffers a strength 5 hit. So once again in game, this will be an aura emanating from the Jabberslythe to simulate the spurting blood. Any enemy attacking the Jabberslythe will have their health reduced. It's sort of like a mortis effect for the beastmen. Returning to the blog post, let's have a look at what the designers have to say. So Ben Leach, who was the designer on the Silence and the Fury, gives us a rundown here of what his thoughts are on the Jabberslythe. It's got a long proboscis tongue, it's got acid for blood, and it's an amalgamation of many different things slapped together, wrapped up in a horror theme. You want it to be attacking infantry, just because it can do so much damage in that aura. You can't really blob it and send all your infantry in to surround it, because they'll all take damage, and they'll all be weaker for it. How many slave rats can it take out? How many do you have? The Regiment of Renown variant, the Vorbgland Broodmother, is yet another step above, her boiling blood giving her aura armor-sundering properties rather than poison. Much better against Black Orcs, Chosen, and anything that's wearing a plate suit. As the end result of the question, can a Jabberslythe breed? She is not for the faint of heart, and more than most can handle. Between this, Taurox's penchant for Minotaurs, and the brand new Gorgon, you can build a truly ferocious and specific army of destruction to rampage through enemy territories and forces. In its own way, the Jabberslythe is beautiful. In motion, it's a whirlwind of competing predators that happen to be in the same body, all vying to be the bit of the creature that gets the kill. Ben recalls trying to get that exactly right with the animator who worked on the Jabberslythe. Now I hope I pronounced her name correctly. It was Eva Sayu. Unfortunately, it seems that Eva has since left Creative Assembly. Wish her all the best in her new role. Ben continues, getting the weight of it was something that we kind of needed to do. Eva and I worked on this quite closely. I pulled all these references together. We were looking at frogs and lizards and dinosaurs and all sorts of stuff to see how it all matches together. The Jabberslythe has little insectoid legs underneath it, with big muscular forearms. Trying to get that to move in a way that was interesting was cool. We opted to make it not fly, because the wings are so tattered. It's really messed up, but we still made it hover a bit as it tries to take off. So it seems they elected to drop the flying ability that the model had on the tabletop. Since they've given the model tattered wings, they believed that it did make sense for it to be able to fly in the traditional sense. More of a hover as it tries to take off, but its own weight pulls it back down. We'll have to see how that applies in-game, but thematically it seems quite fitting. Vic Garza, the senior creature artist, also has some thoughts on how this was put together. The Jabberslythe was the most challenging and complex creature I have done at Creative Assembly by far. Knowing that it is a fan favourite, it put extra pressure for me to deliver an amazing piece. We had to find a perfect balance between keeping faithful to the original Games Workshop design and player expectations, but also making sure it reads well in the context of a Total War game, from up close and far away. This is incredibly difficult and requires constant communication with the team. I worked closely with Baj Singh, our art director, until we found a sweet spot that ticked all the above requirements. It was a mix of creative instinct, pulling from the lore, communication, and iteration. Games Workshop gave us feedback early on as well. I also knew that I had to make the shapes and topology of the Jabberslythe as animation friendly as I could, so that Eva could really make this creature come to life. I worked closely with her from the very beginning stages of this model, all the way through to the end, and made sure to accentuate certain shapes that she would need for her animations to read well. The front arms and the wings are both fairly non-conventional, so I asked for a lot of feedback from Eva on how she would like them to move and feel. This helped me foresee and resolve the initial modelling challenges, and distribute the weight efficiently in my modelling phase, so that it would transfer well for her animation purposes. Another voice from Creative Assembly, Matthew Lewis, the lead animator, oversaw the work on the Jabberslythe. Here's his perspective. From an animation perspective, the Jabberslythe posed many challenges. It had to look realistic, but obviously there was no real-life footage to use. Eva drew on a wide variety of sources, her in-depth knowledge of animal locomotion and her abundant imagination in order to create a convincing performance for the Jabberslythe. As part of this process, we decided that the creature should look ungainly. It shouldn't move with agility or precision. It should shamble and lurch, not fully in control of its limbs. Not a creature of grace, but an affront to nature. Eva had to make this ungainliness appear terrifying rather than comedic, a difficult balance to get right, but one that I think she accomplished. Charlemagne's well spent. Also, I don't want to spoil a surprise, but we did something new for the Jabberslythe's matched combat. We'll let you discover that one for yourselves. Big creatures like these are always a team effort, and you must simultaneously follow your own artistic sense as a creature artist, while relying heavily on others' expertise in their own fields, to really bring out the best. I hope players will love and have fun playing this unit as much as we enjoyed creating it. We really do hope that it lives up to our grossest expectations. So there we have the developers' thoughts on the Jabberslythe, and their hopes and how it will be received by the community. I for one can't wait to play with it, as it looks like an absolute hideous beast that's going to slaughter my enemy's front lines. So the date to mark in your calendar is Wednesday the 14th of July, when the Silence and the Fury will finally be released. During the coming week though, I will be looking at some aspects of the DLC, and continuing with my Thoric Ironbrow playthrough of the FLC. Thank you for joining me and taking a look at this blog post from Creative Assembly. Before I go, I'd like to give a shout out to my patrons. Thanks very much to Hot Apple Pie, Cody Bonds, Alexander, and Solarith Magnetar. I'm Grey Tiger, and I'll hopefully catch you in the next video.